In this video, I'm going to be going over every group of ranks and giving advice and improvement tips on how to work towards escaping these ranks. I've recently switched to Tekken on the PC, and because of that, I've had to rank up a whole new account from scratch. Going through all the ranks at the Tekken Emperor again, I feel like I've learned a lot more about the overall improvement process and how each set of ranks differ from each other, so I thought I'd make a video talking about it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're new, and let's get into how to escape every rank in Tekken 8. Yellow rank is where you actually start losing points, so basically this is the first rank where competition actually starts. Anyone can get here if they play the game, even if they only spam one button. Because of this, there's some major inconsistency with the players here. Some of them will have combos down and will just be trying to actually learn the basics of Tekken, while some will just sit there in special style, spamming random moves. It's really just a coin flip. To escape these beginner ranks, you really just have to play the game and put in the tiny bit of effort outside of the game. And the most important thing to do here is to learn your character. Watch a guide on YouTube or watch a streamer or someone who plays your character. Through this, you need to figure out what your character's general playstyle is and what their best attacks are. And with these two things alone, you can start to build very simple but effective game plans and flowcharts to easily escape these ranks. Maybe with Jin, you play simple keep out with a strong forward 4, or with Paul's down forward 2. Start to notice things that tend to work a lot in these ranks. Maybe you'll hit your opponent with a plus on block move like an electric, and you notice they always seem to press a button after. So you'll use these plus frames to throw out a counter hit and convert with a simple combo. I know it's hard, but you need to try to not overthink in these ranks. Very simple stuff like this will take you a long way. Basically, pay attention to what works and what doesn't, and start to create very simple game plans. Find your character's best moves and abuse them. No one will break throws in these ranks, so you'll get a lot of mileage grabbing all the time. If you have a power crush move, these are also good in these ranks. Even if it's unsafe, no one punishes anything down here. Just focus on learning your character and you'll make it out of these ranks pretty easily. Red ranks is where the vast majority of the player base lies. To start to climb and eventually escape these ranks, you're going to need to do a little bit more than the average Tekken player. Now, there's two ways to go about doing this. The first way is the dark side, where we focus even more heavily on flowcharts, using whatever is available in our arsenal to win and beat unsuspecting players. Like the dark side, this is faster and the easier way to go about doing it, but it will set you back in the long run if your goal is to be a strong Tekken player. There's lots of players who just want to play for fun and win as much as possible, and if that's you, there's no judgment here. Not everyone cares about being really good at Tekken. If that does sound like you, then I highly recommend picking one of the easier flowchart-y characters. Characters like Jun, Law, Asuka, Leo, Kuma and Panda, and Alisa. I'm not saying these characters are cheap, but they certainly have access to a lot of easy flowcharts and options that your opponents will not be able to beat if they haven't labbed the matchup. And these will help you a lot in the short term. And if you're already playing one of these characters and in these ranks, I highly suggest looking for outside resources like a character Discord. A lot of these Discords have some pretty nasty flowcharts and setups that you can learn and abuse in these ranks. Reminder though, if you decide to focus purely on flowcharts and cheesing people in these ranks, you will hit a brick wall eventually, so just keep that in mind. The second method is the one everyone will recommend when you actually decide to learn the Tekken fundamentals. Red rank is where you're going to need to start putting in a little bit of effort to understand the intricacies of the game. Spend more time blocking and watching what your opponent is doing. A lot of times, people in these ranks will not be thinking at all about what they're doing, and will reveal pretty obvious patterns. A little bit of thinking while you're in game will go a long way here. You can even try narrating out loud to yourself what's going on in the match and what you're thinking, like a streamer. This helps a lot of people. Just put a little bit more thought than the average player and you'll see great results. Focus on watching your opponent's character more than you look at your own. That always helped me a lot. You're also going to need to figure out what your character's best fundamental moves are. Find your strong pokes, counter hit tools, pressure tools, and strong lows. What helped me a lot here as well was focusing on whiff punishing. Most characters have a strong tool designed for punishing your opponent's missed moves. Find these moves and just move around. Backdash, sidestep. You can reference the sidestep chart for which way to sidestep. It helps me out a lot. And you'll find success. That's how I always go about escaping red ranks the fastest. Now, it does help to start to understand the other characters people are playing, so you can look into that as well. But I'll talk about that more in the other ranks. Basically, the summary or TLDR in this rank is you need to put slightly more effort than most people. There's lots of ways to do this. Watch guides, watch lots of videos, you can watch pro players playing your character, there's always more to learn. You can go into your replays, although we'll talk about that a lot more later, and mainly just watch your opponents. Try and figure out patterns of what they're doing, and if you know the basic fundamentals of Tekken, you should be able to figure out in your mind how to beat them. Oh, this person keeps spamming a string that ends with a high, let me duck that and launch them. Oh, they keep running in and whiffing moves, let me use a whiff punishing move to punish and get a combo. Very basic stuff like that will go a long way. And pay attention to your opponent. If you've thrown 2 lows in a row and they haven't even remotely tried ducking, then maybe the player doesn't block low, so you can spam lows. Just being more attentive will get you so far in these ranks. I can't emphasize how important it is to just think while you're playing. Again, you can choose to avoid this by picking certain characters and continue abusing people's lack of character knowledge, but this will eventually hurt you. Any of you should be able to escape these ranks if you just put in the time, and it will take some time. Don't expect it to be an overnight change. Sorry to quickly interrupt this video, but if you guys are enjoying this and want to see more scripted, informative Tekken 8 content like this, please consider pressing that subscribe button. It's free to do, and it only takes a couple seconds of your time. I really hate doing these plugs, but it goes such a long way in helping me fight the YouTube algorithm and work towards my dreams of hopefully one day doing this as a full-time job. So I would really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and let's get back to the video. The purple ranks are where things get a little bit more difficult, but surprisingly the skill difference between red rank and purple isn't too crazy. This is the rank where you're going to want to put way more stock into actively thinking about what's going on in your match. We touched on this concept in red ranks, but it becomes far more important here. It'll also be very beneficial to start looking into some of the more popular characters to figure out how to beat their punishable moves. My biggest suggestion here is to use the replay system. Seriously, please use this, it's so good. I know you just want to keep tilt queuing until you start winning again, but whenever you lose, consider taking a break and go watch the replay. When you start watching your replays, first and foremost, you're going to learn a lot about your own playstyle. A lot of people just play and don't actually realize what they're doing mid-game, and if this sounds like you, then this is going to help you out a lot. Start putting some effort into figuring out why you're losing every game. In many cases, it won't actually be because of your opponent. You'll notice through watching replays that you're making a lot of mistakes constantly. Maybe you aren't holding back after your opponent heat dashes or heat bursts and you keep getting hit. Maybe you're autopilot mashing jab every time you think it's your turn and you're getting high crushed or ducked. Maybe you keep getting counter hit by your opponent's strings because you aren't patient enough and keep letting go of block and pressing a button. Or maybe you're never blocking low and your opponent's abusing that. See where you're getting hit and why. Now, for a lot of you, you're going to realize you keep getting hit by the same thing over and over. Maybe you keep getting snake edge, or keep falling for the same annoying Leo flowchart every round of the match, and this is where you're going to want to use the new replay feature that lets you take control of your character and just test things out. Maybe try sidestepping the move that keeps destroying you and see if that works. Maybe try crouch jabbing out of setups, try hop kicking, try parrying. The beauty of this game is that there's always a solution. You just need to figure it out. And so many people just neglect this feature. You can take control of your character at any point in a replay and just try different stuff to beat what your opponent was doing. Just by doing this whenever you lose, you're going to start to get a better idea of what's punishable on block and how to beat common gimmicks. And with this, you can start to formulate game plans. Maybe you realize that Nina players always try and get in your face and spam her stupid high-low-low strings. Okay, so with that in mind, what should you do? You should probably avoid letting her get in your face. Use your keep out moves. Small strategies like this go a long way. Or a Dragunov keeps using his annoying while running too. Okay, well I'm gonna stay back and sidestep to the left. Lily keeps using the tracking high heat engager to go in. Well, I'll duck this whenever I'm far away. The majority of players here are not putting in this level of effort. Just try and learn something new every time you play and keep slowly building on that. Don't get tilted and watch your replays. You will see progress if you do these things. The blue ranks are where things change up quite a lot. The early blue ranks might not feel like that big of a jump for you, but the later ones really do. The skill difference I noticed between the first blue rank and the final one was huge. There's a good number of genuinely strong Tekken players here who want to learn above all else. Naturally, there's also a good number of cheesers who are still neglecting to learn anything. But don't worry, this is where most of them will start to hit a wall. And why do they start to hit this wall? Because this is where you are going to start learning matchups. I know you've probably got by so far avoiding this, but now it's time to actually lock in and focus on learning matchups properly. If you take on these ranks, having a good idea of what most of the characters here do will give you such an easier time. Make a list of characters you've been struggling against and start labbing. There's a ton of ways you can do this. You can simply look up how to beat Alisa in Tekken 8, or whichever character you want to beat, and find punishment videos where they show you exactly how to beat all their annoying moves. This is very helpful, and if you want more specific counterplay advice for your character, you can watch streamers and pro players who play whichever character you're looking for, and just see how they deal with certain characters. Watching tournaments has also always helped me get a better understanding of how to beat certain characters. There's no one who does it better than the pro players. I also highly recommend starting to learn other characters in these ranks. It's the absolute best way to understand a character. Two things can happen here. You'll get an in-depth understanding of the character you're learning, their strengths, their weaknesses, and, naturally, everything you need to know to beat them in the future, and this one is guaranteed. And the second thing, you could find out that you really enjoy them and find a new secondary character to play for fun. This has happened to me many times. I absolutely hated Steve in Tekken 7, but I eventually decided to spend some time learning him, and he ended up being one of my favorite characters to play. I also started destroying Steve players. Learn characters, learn matchups, and you'll have a huge advantage over everyone. Focus on blocking more and figuring out what each character does in this game, what their general game plan is, what their best moves are, and you'll see a big jump in improvement. Keep watching replays, of course, like we said in purple ranks, and make an aim to always learn something every time you play, no matter how small it is. This is how you make progress in this game. I also suggest before every game as well, look at the character you're fighting. I always have the handy sidestep chart ready before starting a match, and have a set of notes ready. When you're labbing other characters, consider writing stuff down for each character. I have a Google Doc with the basic punishable moves and notes on all the characters I struggle with and how to beat them, and I reference this while I'm loading up into a match. It's worked really well for me. With all this in mind, as long as you're actively trying to learn, you will escape these ranks eventually. It'll just take time, as this is, in my opinion, the hardest color of rank to escape in this game. Tekken King and Emperor are similar to the blue ranks in the sense that there seems to be a huge skill difference within these ranks. There I am, fighting for my life in Tekken King in the first part of Emperor, and then the second half of Emperor hits. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I noticed a very significant increase in the average skill level around the second half of Emperor. I have not been able to make it past that point. You're going to run into very good players here, and quite often get matched up against God of Destruction or Tekken God Supreme players playing their sub-characters. There's plenty of tournament players here, so this is going to feel difficult. I can't give too much advice for escaping these ranks, as I'm still here myself, but I would like to give some insight as to what I'm currently working on and have been noticing in these ranks. These ranks are where the character starts to matter slightly less than the player. You will see a lot of Jins and Dragunovs here, but they're all going to play quite differently, which means you need to start focusing on beating your opponent rather than the character. Mind games are naturally very important here, where you'll pay attention to timing and player habits and try and actively outplay your opponent. Immediately when you start your match, pay attention to your opponent. Try and figure out what kind of player they are. Are they hyper-aggressive? Do they start the game by backdashing? Or are they looking for counter hits? Stuff like this is crucial here. I won't get too far into it because now we're getting into very advanced stuff, but conditioning is the name of the game here. Conditioning your opponent to block high, conditioning them to sidestep a lot, or conditioning them not to sidestep so you can use your linear moves. Just being very aware of everything that's going on during a match. To get into the very basics of conditioning, every time you do something in Tekken, whether you dash forward, throw out a move, dash back, sidestep, whatever, there's an equal and opposite response from your opponent. High-level Tekken is a game of tugging on these strings back and forth to make reads and implementing mind games on your opponent. That's what I've been working on understanding, trying to understand the mind game aspect of high-level competitive Tekken. This is way too complicated for a beginner video like this, but if there's enough interest, maybe I'll make a video on this in the future. And yeah, that's about all I've got for today. I'm definitely not a pro player or a coach, but I just thought I might be able to help some people by sharing what I've learned throughout these ranks, and I really hope I was able to do so. Let me know in the comments what rank you're currently in and what you've been struggling with. I'll be down there chatting with you guys as always and might be able to help you out. Or you can join my Discord server, where I'm always active in answering questions if you want to ask something more specific. Make sure to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, I want to give a very special shout out to my YouTube members and Patreon patrons. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later. Take it easy.